There are places on Earth where the planet tries to kill everything. Places where water reaches temperatures that should cook flesh from bone. Where the pressure would crush a submarine like a soda can. Where the water itself is laced with chemicals so toxic that a single breath would destroy your lungs from the inside out. No light, no oxygen, no mercy. And yet somehow, against every law of biology we thought we understood, these places are absolutely teeming with life. Not just surviving, thriving. We are talking about creatures that breathe poison, bleed with bacteria instead of oxygen, and wear armor literally forged from metal. They live inside underwater volcanoes, and what scientists have found down there has completely rewritten our understanding of what life actually needs to exist. The ocean floor is not the flat, sandy desert most people imagine. It is a landscape of mountains, canyons, and violent geological chaos. And scattered across this landscape, mostly in places humans have never seen, are over 1 million underwater volcanoes. Some are dormant, some are actively erupting right now as you listen to this. Most have never been mapped, let alone explored. We know more about the surface of Mars than we do about what is happening at the bottom of our own oceans. But the volcanoes we have managed to visit, they have revealed something extraordinary. At the points where volcanic activity meets the ocean, where superheated water bursts through cracks in the Earth's crust, you find hydrothermal vents. Think of them like underwater geysers. Except instead of spraying clean water, they are blasting out a toxic cocktail of dissolved metals, sulfur compounds, and superheated fluid that can reach over 400 degrees Celsius. The only reason this water does not vaporize into steam is the crushing pressure at these depths, sometimes over 300 times the pressure at the surface. These vents come in different forms. Black smokers shoot out dark, mineral-rich plumes that look like factory chimneys, belching pollution into the water. White smokers release lighter, cooler fluids. And around these vents, the chemistry is unlike anywhere else on the planet. The water is acidic. It is filled with hydrogen sulfide, the same gas that gives rotten eggs their smell, except at concentrations that would kill a human almost instantly. For most of scientific history, the assumption was simple. Nothing could live here. The heat alone should denature proteins, unravel DNA, make the basic machinery of life impossible. Add in the complete absence of sunlight, the toxic chemicals, the pressure, and you have what looks like the most hostile environment Earth has to offer. Scientists were wrong. In 1977, a small submarine called Alvin descended to the Galapagos Rift, a volcanic spreading zone in the Pacific Ocean. The researchers on board were geologists. They were there to study rocks and mineral deposits. They were not expecting to find life. But as Alvin approached a hydrothermal vent, its cameras captured something that made no sense. The seafloor was covered in animals. Giant white worms, some over 2 meters long, swayed in the current. Crabs picked their way across the rocks. Shrimp swarmed in dense clouds around the vent openings. The scientists had no framework for what they were seeing. How could anything survive here? There was no sunlight, which meant there was no photosynthesis, which meant there was no food chain. Or so they thought. What they discovered next changed biology forever. The creatures living around these vents had found a way to build an entire ecosystem without the sun. Instead of photosynthesis, they used chemosynthesis. Bacteria at the base of this food chain were harvesting energy directly from the chemicals pouring out of the vents, particularly hydrogen sulfide. These bacteria could take toxic compounds and convert them into usable energy, the same fundamental process that plants do with sunlight, but powered by volcanic poison instead. Everything else in the ecosystem fed on these bacteria, either directly or by eating something that did. It was a complete, self-sustaining world, powered entirely by the heat and chemistry of the Earth itself. We had always assumed that all complex life on this planet depended ultimately on the sun. That assumption was now dead. But the real shock came when scientists started examining the creatures themselves. Because the animals that live around hydrothermal vents are not just surviving in extreme conditions. They have evolved into forms so bizarre, so alien, that they challenge our basic understanding of what an animal can be. Take the giant tube worm, Riftia pashiptila. These things can grow over 2 meters tall, living in white tubes anchored to the rocks around vents. But here's the unsettling part. They have no mouth, no stomach, no digestive system at all. A tube worm cannot eat. Because it has no way to eat. Instead, its entire body is packed with a specialized organ called a trophosome, and that organ is filled with billions of chemosynthetic bacteria. The worm absorbs hydrogen sulfide and oxygen through its feathery red plume, delivers those chemicals to the bacteria living inside it, and the bacteria produce energy that feeds the worm. It is not quite an animal, it is a cooperative structure, a living partnership between creature and microbe, fused into something that should not work, but does. And here is what makes this even stranger. Tube worms have blood, and that blood is bright red, filled with hemoglobin just like ours. But their hemoglobin has a unique property. It can bind hydrogen sulfide without being destroyed by it. In any other animal, hydrogen sulfide would poison the blood, shutting down cellular respiration. Tube worms evolved blood that carries the poison safely, delivering it to their bacterial passengers like a fuel line pumping gas to an engine. Then there is the scaly foot snail, and this creature is so improbable that it sounds like something from science fiction. It lives around vents in the Indian Ocean, in water so saturated with iron and sulfur that the chemicals crystallize out of the water and onto any available surface. The snail did not just adapt to this, it weaponized it. Its shell and foot are covered in iron sulfide scales, actual metal armor grown from the toxic soup around it. This is the only animal on Earth known to incorporate iron into its skeleton as a structural defense. The scales are layered in a way that dissipates energy from attacks, a design so effective that researchers have studied it for potential military applications. An animal that grows its own metal armor. Evolution built that in total darkness, at the bottom of the ocean, next to a volcano. The Pompeii worm pushes the limits even further. Named after the Roman city, destroyed by volcanic eruption, these worms live directly on the walls of black smoker chimneys, in the hottest water any animal has ever been found. Their tails experience temperatures around 80 degrees Celsius, while their heads stay in relatively cooler water around 20 degrees. They survive a temperature gradient across their own bodies that would kill virtually any other complex organism. Scientists still do not fully understand how their proteins remain stable at these temperatures. Most enzymes would fall apart, most cell membranes would lose integrity. The Pompeii worm somehow holds itself together in conditions that should make biology impossible. And then there are the Yeti crabs. Discovered in 2005, these are pale white crabs covered in silky hair-like strands called setae. They look almost fuzzy, like someone knitted a crab out of white yarn. But those hairs are not for insulation. They are bacteria farms. Yeti crabs deliberately cultivate chemosynthetic bacteria on their own bodies, waving their arms near vent fluid to give their bacteria access to the chemicals they need. Then they scrape the bacteria off their arms and eat it. They are farming. These crabs invented agriculture in the pitch darkness of the deep ocean, growing their own food on their own bodies. The shrimp around Atlantic vents have taken a different path. Remicaris exocolita swarms around black smokers in dense clouds, thousands of individuals clustering as close to the superheated water as they can get without cooking themselves. They are covered in bacteria too, but the really strange adaptation is in their heads. These shrimp have no eyes, not in any normal sense. Their ancestors had eyes, but evolution stripped them away. In their place, the shrimp developed a large, flat organ on their backs that detects infrared radiation, the faint thermal glow of the vents themselves. They can see heat. In a world of total darkness, they evolved to perceive the one thing that matters, the warmth of the volcano that keeps them alive. Every single one of these creatures represents an answer to a problem that should have been unsolvable. No sun, no oxygen in the water, temperatures that destroy proteins, toxic chemicals at lethal concentrations, and life just kept finding a way through. This matters far beyond the deep ocean. When scientists discovered vent ecosystems, it forced a complete rethinking of where life could exist. The old assumption was that you needed sunlight, moderate temperatures, and the right chemical balance. Hydrothermal vents proved that life could bootstrap itself from chemistry and heat alone. And that has massive implications for the rest of the universe. Jupiter's moon Europa has a global ocean beneath its icy shell, kept liquid by tidal heating. Saturn's moon Enceladus is actively venting water vapor into space, water that chemical analysis suggests is coming from hydrothermal systems on the seafloor. If life can thrive at underwater volcanoes on Earth, There is no reason it could not exist on those moons as well. In fact, some scientists now believe that life on Earth might have started at hydrothermal vents, not in shallow sunlit pools, as we once assumed. The chemistry is right, the energy is there. The oldest microbial fossils we have found are associated with volcanic systems. Life might have been born in fire and poison, and only later crawled toward the light. There's one more thing worth considering. The creatures at hydrothermal vents have been there for a very long time. The fossil record shows vent communities going back hundreds of millions of years. These ecosystems do not care about what happens on the surface. When an asteroid wiped out the dinosaurs and blocked the sun, the vent communities kept going. When ice ages froze the planet, the vent communities kept going. When ocean chemistry shifted and mass extinctions swept through marine life, the vent communities kept going. They are powered by the Earth itself, not the sun. And as long as this planet has a hot core and moving tectonic plates, the vents will keep flowing. The creatures that live there have survived every catastrophe this planet has thrown at the surface world. They may well outlast us, and yet, we have barely scratched the surface. Estimates suggest that over 80% of underwater volcanic systems remain unexplored. Every time a submersible visits a new vent field, it finds species that have never been documented. The scaly-foot snail was only discovered in 2001, the yeti crab in 2005, new species of tube worm, new species of snail, new species of shrimp. They just keep appearing. The deep ocean is the largest habitat on Earth, and the least understood. We have sent more people to the moon than to the deepest hydrothermal vents. What else is living down there, in the dark, in the heat, in the poison? What other impossible animals have evolution built around underwater volcanoes that we have not found yet? We do not know, but based on everything we have discovered so far, the answer is almost certainly stranger than anything we can imagine.